Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 746, for the 22nd of January 2023. Richard Saunders coming to you from Sydney, Australia, where it's been nice weather, actually, for this time of year. Muggy, for sure, very humid, but not too hot. So what's today? Today is overcast and raining, but there you go. Coming up on this week's show, Adrienne Hill with part 2 of her series looking at WikiProjects. Now, last time, Adrienne looked at topics when it comes to Wikipedia on the paranormal, the top 10 paranormal sites on Wikipedia. This week, she's going to look at the top 10 sites regarding skepticism. A fascinating look into Wikipedia and what people are looking at online. Following that, it's another segment involving the artificial intelligence of ChatGPT. I did a segment in the beginning of December about this search engine. Search engine? What would you call it? This week, I'm going to ask it about classical skeptical topics. And then to round off the show, the Trove segment looks at a very classical skeptical topic indeed, creationism. Something you don't hear about too much anymore, well, especially in Australia. What did the Australian newspapers have to say or report about creationism going back, well, mostly in the 1980s and one even further back this week in the 1930s. A big shout out to my friend Maynard, who I saw just the other evening. And I was very happy to present Maynard with a poster I found in Berkeley in California. It's a big poster of the 1966 Batman movie starring Adam West and Burt Ward. But this poster was from Japan. It's quite something. And speaking of things Japanese, a shout out to my friend Michelle Bickersma, our reporter in Melbourne, who is also a good friend of the Skeptical Fairy, as she is soon to embark on another year of teaching Japanese. But enough about that. It's time for me to run downstairs and see if there's a leftover jalapeno sausage from last night's dinner. Might try that. While I do that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. You can count on Adrienne with Adrienne Hill.
Hello everyone. This is part 2 of my series of reports looking at WikiProjects on Wikipedia. According to Wikipedia's own definition, a WikiProject is, quote, a group of editors that wish to work together as a team to improve Wikipedia. A successful WikiProject contributes toward Wikipedia's mission of building an encyclopedia, end quote. This time, we are going to take a look at the articles associated with a WikiProject of particular interest to skeptics, WikiProject Skepticism. And this WikiProject states that it is, quote, dedicated to creating, improving, and monitoring articles related to scientific skepticism, also known as rational skepticism or skeptical inquiry. The focus includes articles about claims which are contrary to the current body of scientific evidence, or which involve the paranormal. The project ensures that these articles are written from a neutral point of view and do not put forward invalid claims as truth, end quote. This project's main page is called WikiProject_Skepticism, and you can find the popular page by just Googling WikiProject Skepticism popular pages. And if you prefer, Richard has included the links in this week's show notes. And now, with the help of Richard Saunders, let's take a look at the top 10 Wikipedia articles per page number of views listed at the popular pages. And we are using the list that we collected on January 8th, 2023, so it's reasonably up to date. We have noticed that the rankings can change quite significantly each month, so do check it out.
At number 10 on the list, with a daily average of 7,498 views, is Gwyneth Paltrow. According to her wiki page, Gwyneth Kate Paltrow is an American actress and businesswoman. She is the recipient of various accolades, including an Academy Award, a Golden Globe Award, and a Primetime Emmy Award. Now, the part of her page that is of interest to skeptics is her involvement in the Goop company and products. In September 2008, Paltrow launched the weekly lifestyle newsletter Goop, encouraging readers to, quote, nourish the inner aspect, end quote. Goop has expanded into a web-based company, Goop.com. Goop, and by extension Paltrow, have faced backlash for showcasing expensive products and promoting medically and scientifically impossible treatments, many of which have harmful consequences. The controversies have included vaginal steaming, the use of jade eggs, a dangerous coffee enema device, and body vibes, wearable stickers that were claimed to, quote, rebalance the energy frequency in our bodies, end quote, and which Goop falsely claimed were made of a NASA-developed material. Goop settled a lawsuit regarding the health claims it made over the jade eggs. On January the 27th, 2020, Truth in Advertising watchdog, TINA.org, filed another complaint with the district attorneys of California, alleging that Goop has continued to engage in deceptive marketing, even after Goop was sued by the state of California earlier in that year and agreed to refrain from, quote, making any claims regarding the efficacy or effects of any of its products without possessing complete and reliable scientific evidence that substantiates the claims, end quote, for a period of 5 years. TINA.org's complaint alleges that Goop claims their products are, quote, clinically proven, end quote, to treat such symptoms as anxiety, depression, OCD, and more.
And at number 9 on the list with a daily average of 7,636 views is Jenny McCarthy. According to her Wikipedia page, Jennifer McCarthy Wahlberg is an American actress, model, and television personality. She began her career in 1993 as a nude model for Playboy magazine and was later named their Playmate of the Year. McCarthy then had a television and film acting career. The part of her page that will be of most interest to skeptics is her autism activism and views on vaccines. That is certainly why I'm familiar with Jenny McCarthy. And what it states on the page is that McCarthy's public presence and vocal activism on the vaccination autism controversy led, in 2008, to her being awarded the James Randi Educational Foundation's Pegasus Award, which is a tongue-in-cheek award granted for contributions to pseudoscience for the, quote, performer who has fooled the greatest number of people with the least amount of effort, end quote. Randi stated in a video on the JREF's website that he did sympathize with the plight of McCarthy and her child, but admonished her for her using her public presence in a way that may discourage parents from having their own children vaccinated. In 2019, Rolling Stone magazine published a list of 17 anti-vaccination celebrities, from which, according to Stuart Weiss, McCarthy was one of the most active anti-vaccine celebrities. McCarthy's claims that vaccines cause autism are not supported by any medical evidence, and the original paper by Andrew Wakefield that formed the basis for the claims, and for whose book McCarthy wrote a foreword, was based on manipulated data and fraudulent research.
At number 8 on the list, with a daily average of 7,743 views, is Scientology. According to its wiki page, Scientology is a set of beliefs and practices invented by American author L. Ron Hubbard and an associated movement. It has been variously defined as a cult, a business, or a new religious movement. A 2008 survey found that there were about 25,000 followers in the United States. The most recent census data indicate there were around 1,800 followers in England, 1,400 followers in Canada, and about 1,600 in Australia. Hubbard initially developed a set of ideas that he called Dianetics, which he represented as a form of therapy. This he promoted through various publications, as well as through the Hubbard Dianetic Research Foundation that he established in 1950. The foundation went bankrupt, and Hubbard lost the rights to his book Dianetics in 1952. He then recharacterized the subject as religion and named it Scientology, retaining the terminology, doctrines, and the practice of, quote, auditing, end quote. By 1954, he had regained the rights to Dianetics and retained both subjects under the umbrella of the Church of Scientology.
At number 7 on the list, with a daily average of 8,513 views, is MK Ultra, something I don't know about. According to its Wikipedia page, Project MK Ultra was an illegal human experimentation program designed and undertaken by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, or CIA, intended to develop procedures and identify drugs that could be used in interrogations to weaken individuals and force confessions through brainwashing and psychological torture. It began in 1953 and was halted in 1973. MK Ultra used numerous methods to manipulate its subjects' mental states and brain functions, such as the covert administration of high doses of psychoactive drugs, especially LSD, and other chemicals, electroshocks, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, and verbal and sexual abuse, in addition to other forms of torture.
At number 6 on the list, with a daily average of 8,743 views, is Nikola Tesla. According to his wiki page, Nikola Tesla, 1856 to 1943, was a Serbian-American inventor, electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, and futurist, best known for his contributions to the design of the modern alternating current AC electricity supply system. Attempting to develop inventions he could patent and market, Tesla conducted a range of experiments with mechanical oscillators/generators, electrically charged tubes, and early X-ray imaging. He also built a wirelessly controlled boat, one of the first ever exhibited. Tesla became well known as an inventor and demonstrated his achievements to celebrities and wealthy patrons at his lab, and was noted for his showmanship at public lectures. Throughout the 1890s, Tesla pursued his ideas for wireless lighting and worldwide wireless electric power distribution in his high-voltage, high-frequency power experiments in New York and Colorado Springs. In 1893, he made pronouncements on the possibility of wireless communication with his devices. Tesla tried to put these ideas to practical use in his unfinished Wardenclyffe Tower project, an international wireless communication and power transmitter, but ran out of funding before he could complete it. And to add to that, I would recommend, if you're interested in Nikola Tesla, to listen or read Brian Dunning's take on Tesla, which can be found at skeptoid.com, episode 345, The Cult of Nikola Tesla.
At number 5 on the list, with a daily average of 9,167 views, is the Illuminati. According to its wiki page, the Illuminati, which is plural of Latin illuminatus, or enlightened, is a name given to several groups, both real and fictitious. Historically, the name usually refers to the Bavarian Illuminati, an Enlightenment-era secret society founded on the 1st of May, 1776 in Bavaria, today part of Germany. The society's goals were to oppose superstition, obscurantism, religious influence over public life, and abuses of state power. Quote, the order of the day, end quote, they wrote in their general statuses, quote, is to put an end to the machinations of the purveyors of injustice, to control them without dominating them, end quote. The Illuminati, along with Freemasonry and other secret societies, were outlawed through edict by Charles Theodore, Elector of Bavaria, with the encouragement of the Catholic Church in 1784, 1785, 1787, and 1790. During subsequent years, the group was generally vilified by conservative and religious critics who claimed that the Illuminati continued underground and were responsible for the French Revolution. In subsequent use, Illuminati has been used when referring to various organizations which are alleged to be a continuation of the original Bavarian Illuminati, though these links have not been substantiated. These organizations have often been accused of conspiring to control world affairs by masterminding events and planting agents in government and corporations in order to gain political power and influence and to establish a new world order. Central to some of the more widely known and elaborate conspiracy theories, the Illuminati are depicted as lurking in the shadows and pulling the strings and levers of power. This view of the Illuminati has found its way into popular culture, appearing in dozens of novels, films, television shows, comics, video games, and music videos.
At number 4 on the list, with a daily average of 9,149 views, is QAnon, according to its wiki page. QAnon is an American political conspiracy theory and political movement. It originated in the American far-right political sphere in 2017. QAnon centers on the fabricated claims made by an anonymous individual or individuals known as Q. Those claims have been relayed, developed, and supplemented by numerous communities and influences associated with the movement. The core QAnon conspiracy theory is that a cabal of satanic, cannibalistic sexual abusers of children operating a global child sex trafficking ring conspired against former US President Donald Trump during his term in office. The QAnon conspiracy theory has direct roots in Pizzagate, an internet conspiracy theory that appeared 1 year earlier. It also incorporates elements of many other theories. Some experts have described QAnon as a cult. Followers of the conspiracy theorists say the Trump administration secretly fought the cabal of pedophiles and would conduct mass arrests and execution of thousands of cabal members on the day known as, quote, the storm, end quote, or, quote, the event, end quote. QAnon conspiracy believers have named Democratic politicians, Hollywood actors, high-ranking government officials, business tycoons, and medical experts as members of the cabal. QAnon has also claimed that Trump stimulated the conspiracy of Russian interference in the 2016 United States presidential election to enlist Robert Mueller to join him in exposing the sex trafficking ring and to prevent a coup d'etat by Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and George Soros. QAnon is described as anti-Semitic or rooted in anti-Semitic tropes due to its fixation on Jewish financier George Soros and conspiracy theories about the Rothschild family, a frequent target of anti-Semites. QAnon followers have perpetrated acts of violence on numerous occasions. Members of the movement actively took part in the 2020 United States presidential election, during which they supported Trump's campaign and waged information warfare in an attempt to influence voters. After Joe Biden won, they were involved in efforts to overturn the results of the election. Several associates of Trump, such as General Michael Flynn and 2 members of his legal team, Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell, have prompted QAnon-derived conspiracy theories. When these tactics failed, Trump supporters, many of them QAnon followers, attacked the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. The Capitol attack was a watershed moment for QAnon and led to a further, more substantiated social media crackdown on the movement and its claims.
At number 3 on the list, with a daily average of 9,275 views, is Realism. According to its wiki page, Realism, also known as Raelianism, is a UFO religion founded in 1970s France by Claude Verillon, now known as Rael. Scholars of religion classify Realism as a new religious movement. The group is formalized as the International Raelian Movement, or IRM, or Raelian Church, a hierarchical organization under Rael's leadership. Realism teaches that an extraterrestrial species known as the Elohim created humanity using their advanced technology. An atheistic religion, it holds that the Elohim have historically been mistaken for gods. It claims that throughout history, the Elohim have created 40 Elohim/human hybrids who have served as prophets preparing humanity for news about their origins. Among them are the Buddha, Jesus, and Mohammed, with Rael himself the 40th and final prophet. Realists believe that since the atomic bombing of Hiroshima in 1945, humanity has entered an age of apocalypse in which it threatens itself with nuclear annihilation. Realism holds that humanity must find a way to harness new scientific and technological development for peaceful purposes, and that when this has been achieved, the Elohim will return to Earth to share their technology with humanity and establish a utopia. To this end, Raelians have sought to build an embassy for the Elohim that incorporates a landing pad for their spaceship. Raelians engage in daily meditation, hoping for physical immortality through human cloning, and promote a liberal ethical system with a strong emphasis on sexual experimentation.
At number 2 on the list, with a daily average of 11,256 views, is Hunter Biden Laptop Conspiracy. According to its wiki page, in October 2020, a controversy emerged involving data from a laptop belonging to Hunter Biden that was abandoned in a Delaware computer shop. The New York Post published the first story based on information provided by Rudy Giuliani. Forensic analysis later authenticated some of the data on the laptop, including one of 2 key emails used in the Post in their initial reporting. No evidence of illegality by Joe Biden has been shown from the laptop contents. On October 14, 3 weeks before the 2020 United States presidential election, the New York Post published a story presenting emails from the laptop and stating that they showed corruption by Joe Biden. Incumbent president and presidential candidate Donald Trump tried to turn the story into an October surprise to hurt Joe Biden's campaign, with Trump asserting the false conspiracy theory that Joe Biden had acted corruptly regarding Ukraine while in office. The hard drive data had been shared with the FBI and Republican operatives before being given to the press. PolitiFact wrote in June 2021 that, while, quote, over time, there has been less doubt that the laptop did in fact belong to Hunter Biden, end quote, the laptop, quote, was real in the sense that it exists, but didn't prove much, end quote, as, quote, nothing from the laptop has revealed illegal or unethical behavior by Joe Biden as vice president with regard to his son's tenure as a director for Burisma, end quote. In November 2022, CBS News published a forensic analysis it commissioned, which examined a, quote, clean, end quote, copy of the data obtained directly from the repair shop operator. That analysis concluded that the clean data, including over 120,000 emails, originated with Hunter Biden and had not been altered, contrasting that to other copies circulated by Republican operatives, which, quote, could have been tampered with, end quote. The Washington Post reported that experts, at their request, had authenticated a number of emails, including one that was the subject of the New York Post reporting. The drive analyzed for the Washington Post lacked a clear chain of custody and was considered, quote, a mess, end quote, and, quote, a disaster, end quote, from a forensic standpoint by 2 analysts. It contains emails marked to and from Hunter Biden and other digital files relating to him. 2 forensic analysts who independently examined the data for the Washington Post authenticated 1,828 and 22,000 emails, respectively, of the almost 129,000 emails on the hard drive in 2022. Neither analyst could verify the vast majority of the data, nor could they find evidence of tampering. In some cases, the Post matched content to other sources, quote, that the experts were not able to assess, end quote. The unverified emails included some prominently reported previously by other news outlets. The analysis found that people other than Biden had created 6 new folders on the drive over a week, after the original report by the New York Post and months after the laptop had been taken into FBI custody. It also found that data had been accessed and copied off the drive by people other than Biden over nearly 3 years.
At number 1 on the list with a daily average of 27,280 views is Coral Castle, which we covered in part 1 of this series. Since articles can have multiple tags, this is not surprising. And if you remember, this is up considerably from the 8,625 daily views we used from the December stats. And in fact, one day the views almost reached 90,000. Now to recap. According to its wiki page, Coral Castle is an oolite limestone structure created by the Latvian-American eccentric Edward Leedskalnin, 1887 to 1951. It is located in unincorporated territory of Miami-Dade County, Florida, between the cities of Homestead and Leisure City. The structure comprises numerous large stones, each weighing several tons, scripted into a variety of shapes, including slab walls, tables, chairs, a crescent moon, a water fountain, and a sundial. It is currently a privately operated tourist attraction. Coral Castle is noted for legends surrounding its creation that claim it was built single-handedly by Leedskalnin, using a reverse magnetism or supernatural abilities to move and carve the stones. And there you have it, the top 10 list as recorded on the WikiProject Skepticism. And now, before you ask, here are the subjects making up numbers 11 to 20. Grigory Rasputin, Alex Jones, Bermuda Triangle, Biblical Magi, Our Lady of Guadalupe, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Dunning-Kruger Effect, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, Graham Hancock, and at number 20, Pizzagate Conspiracy Theory. In the next segment, I'll look for the Wiki Project for cryptozoology and see what the top page views are for mysterious animals and monsters. But for now, this is Adrienne Hill signing off from Canada.
Hello, this is Maynard. Did you know that you can listen to the Skeptic Zone on YouTube? Yes, I know, sounds crazy, but it's true. Also, you can hear 40 logical fallacies with Michelle Bickersma and funny sketches with Richard Saunders and a host of other skeptics. Just click on the YouTube links on the homepage at skepticzone.tv.
At the beginning of December 2022, I did a segment on the Skeptic Zone looking at the wondrous new ChatGPT, the artificial intelligence interface where you can type in questions and see what it has to say about many issues. It's got a lot of teachers concerned. It's going to be interesting to see what happens this year at schools around the world where more and more students might be tempted to have their homework written for them by this interesting interface. Now, at the time, we looked at various things it could do. I put it to ChatGPT that I'd like to know what a skeptical podcast from Australia would be like, and it gave me a very interesting answer. I also had a funny story about UFOs and beer with Brian Dunning, and even a poem dedicated to the skeptical fairy godmother angel from the internet. Now, inspired by some work done by my skeptical friend Rob Palmer, the well-known skeptic, I've put some more questions to ChatGPT along the lines of what we do, the paranormal, the investigation of strange and mysterious things. So let's ask ChatGPT about some of the the main topics in skepticism. Question: what is your opinion of psychics? Answer: as an AI, I don't have personal opinions or beliefs. Psychics are individuals who claim to have the ability to perceive information that is not available through the five senses and to use this ability to provide guidance or insights to others. Some people believe that psychics have a real and valuable ability, while others are skeptical of their claims. It is important to note that the existence of psychic abilities is not supported by scientific evidence, and many experts consider psychic claims to be pseudoscience. The American Psychological Association has stated that, quote, there is no scientific evidence that psychic abilities exist, end quote. It is also worth mentioning that there are people who falsely claim to be psychics and use this to scam people out of money. Therefore, it is important to be careful when seeking the services of a psychic and to be aware of the potential for fraud. In general, it is best to approach psychic claims with a healthy dose of skepticism and to be cautious of any information provided by a psychic that cannot be verified by other means. So, a pretty fair response to that question, I thought. Okay, ChatGPT, here's the next question for you. Does Bigfoot exist? And ChatGPT says, there is no scientific evidence to support the existence of Bigfoot. Most scientists believe that claims of Bigfoot sightings can be explained as misidentifications of known animals or hoaxes. However, some people continue to believe in the creature's existence and search for evidence to support it. And I think that's a very well-rounded answer. And the next question for ChatGPT: can people bend spoons with the power of their minds? And ChatGPT says, it is not possible for people to bend spoons with the power of their minds. The idea that one can bend objects with the power of their mind, also known as psychokinesis, is often associated with stage magic or psychic powers. However, there is no scientific evidence to support the idea that psychokinesis is real. Many of the spoon-bending demonstrations that have been presented as evidence of psychokinesis have been revealed as simple tricks or illusions. Now, I was going to put in a question about UFOs, but we did cover that on the first segment of ChatGPT on the first week, in the first week of December. So let me try putting this question to the artificial intelligence. Does homeopathy work? And this is the opinion of ChatGPT, or the information it has gathered. Homeopathy is a system of alternative medicine that is based on the belief that dilute amounts of a substance that causes the symptoms of a disease in a healthy person can cure similar symptoms in a sick person. However, scientific evidence does not support the effectiveness of homeopathy. Many studies have found that the benefits of homeopathy are no greater than those of a placebo. The principles of homeopathy are also at odds with established scientific laws, such as the law of thermodynamics and the principles of chemistry and physics. Homeopathy is considered by most of the scientific community as an unproven and ineffective form of medicine and is not widely accepted by mainstream medical practitioners. While some people may find relief from symptoms by using homeopathy, it is likely due to a placebo effect or other non-specific effects. I'm beginning to think that ChatGPT might be a bit of a skeptic. All right, let's get into the fun stuff. Hey, tell me, ChatGPT, as I type, ghosts real? And ChatGPT says, the existence of ghosts is a topic of debate, and there is no scientific evidence to support their existence. Many people believe in ghosts, often basing their belief on personal experiences or cultural traditions. However, there are many alternative explanations for the experiences that are often attributed to ghosts, such as psychological factors, misinterpretation of natural phenomena, and hoaxes. The scientific community generally does not consider ghosts to be real and explains alleged ghost sightings and other paranormal phenomena as a result of natural or human-made causes such as hallucinations, sleep paralysis, cognitive biases, and various other factors. Ultimately, whether ghosts are real or not is a matter of personal belief, as there is no scientific evidence to prove or disprove the existence of ghosts. A little bit of a wishy-washy ending to that opinion. Now let's gaze into the future. Let me ask, can you tell the future via the stars? And ChatGPT says, astrology is a belief system that posits a relationship between celestial bodies and events on Earth. Astrology is not considered a science, and there is no scientific evidence to support the idea that the positions and movements of celestial bodies have any impact on human affairs. Astrology is not a reliable method for predicting the future. The predictions made by astrologers are often based on generalizations and lack specific information. Furthermore, astrology does not take into account the many other factors that can influence the course of events. The scientific community does not support the idea of astrology being able to predict the future, and it is considered a pseudoscience. The idea of using the stars and the planets' positions to tell the future is a superstition, and it's not supported by any scientific evidence. I'm beginning to wonder if people are going to think that ChatGPT is just a shill, a stooge for big skepticism. You can wonder what happens when a believer in astrology or palmistry, we haven't tried palmistry, but those sort of things, puts these questions to ChatGPT and finds these skeptical responses. But having said the palmistry one, I'll try that to round off this segment. Hey, tell me, ChatGPT, is palmistry a real phenomena? Palmistry, also known as chiromancy, is the practice of studying the lines and other features of the hand, such as the shape of the fingers and the mounts, to predict a person's future or character. Like astrology, it is not considered a science, and there is no scientific evidence to support the validity of palmistry as a method of predicting the future or determining a person's character. Palmistry is often considered a pseudoscience, and its predictions are not reliable. There is no scientific evidence that the shapes or lines on the hand are related to a person's personality or future events. The claims made by palmists are not supported by scientific research, and the practice is not recognized by the scientific community. While some people may find entertainment or personal meaning in palmistry, it should not be considered a credible or reliable method for predicting the future or understanding a person's character. And so there we go, a little look at some of the classical topics in skepticism, some of the more, can we say, mainstream skeptical topics. There are hundreds of topics in skepticism, and I wonder what ChatGPT thinks of even more of them. Maybe in a future episode we might look at some more classical skeptical topics. Artificial intelligence. Will that be the keystone of 2023? I wonder.
Dr. Harriet Hall, MD, known to thousands as the Skepdoc, was a retired family physician and former Air Force flight surgeon who wrote about medicine, so-called complementary and alternative medicine, science, quackery, and critical thinking. Harriet produced a free online course of 10 video lectures on science-based medicine and alternative medicine. The videos and an accompanying course guide can be found by following the link at skepdoc.info or by visiting tinyurl.com/skepdoc series. Topics covered in the series are science-based medicine versus evidence-based medicine, what is CAM, chiropractic, acupuncture, homeopathy, naturopathy and herbal medicine, energy medicine, miscellaneous alternatives, pitfalls in research, and science-based medicine in the media and politics. Harriet covers each topic in a matter-of-fact, no-nonsense way that is sure to educate and entertain. Find it at tinyurl.com/SkepDoc series.
Time once again to dive into those pages at Trove, at trove.nla.gov.au, a free online resource from the Australian Government and the National Library of Australia. And as we've mentioned on the show before, that is in doubt for the future because of funding. Let's hope the government can supply some funding. But for now, there are millions of articles at your fingertips, all searchable, going back through Australian newspaper history. And this week I thought we'd look at a topic I don't think we've covered on Trove before. Mainly because, well, you don't hear about it much anymore. This is the creationism and evolution debate. Now, when I joined the Australian Skeptics over 20 years ago, this was still a relatively hot topic. And it was talked about, it was in the news, all sorts of things were going on, but over the decades, it barely rates a mention anymore. Creationism in this country, for the most part, has been consigned to the trash bin of history. We have a bit of a mixed bag, but let's start in the year 1933 from the Mercury in Hobart, Tasmania, published on the 18th of February. Evolution Theory. Sermon by Pastor Gilson. In the course of his sermon at the camp meeting held at 103 Main Road, Moona, last night, Pastor Gilson stated that the theory of evolution was without foundation, and quoted passages from Scripture as proof of his statement. Much strong evidence was given also, he said, from the writings of leading modern scientists upon the pillars of uniform materialism as taught by Lyell and the natural selection as taught by Darwin, but both these theories were without scientific foundation. Geology absolutely disproved uniform materialism. Say that 3 times quickly. The day of Darwinism was dead. A generation of scientists having arisen that confessed, quote, so far as concerns the major group of animals, the creationists seem to have the better of the argument. There is not the slightest evidence that any of the major groups arose from any other, end quote. Sir James Jeans, in 1931, gave in book form the subject of the Ready Lectures delivered before the University of Cambridge in December 1930. There must have been, he said, what we may describe as a creation, at the time not infinitely remote. Darwinism was rejected by scientists as being unscientific, and the pillars upon which evolution stood had fallen. Scientists were discovering that in order to be scientific, they must line up with Bible teachings, and many of the most modern had almost entirely abandoned the theory of evolution. There we go, from 1933, and the creationists were on the cusp of victory. Oh, I wonder what went wrong. Now let's bounce forward to the year 1984. Ooh, an auspicious year. Not so long ago. You know, in the scheme of things, not so long ago in Australian history. And this comes to us from the Canberra Times, dated the 29th of March in 1984. Evolution, only a theory. Brisbane, Queensland. High school teachers have been ordered not to teach Charles Darwin's theory of evolution as if it was fact. The Minister for Education, Mr. Powell, told Parliament that teachers had also been instructed to present alternative models and theories about creation and human development.
It has long concerned me that in some places there are people teaching the theory of evolution as fact.
He said.
It's not fact, it's a theory.
Mr. Powell had been asked by the government whip, Mr. Neil, what freedom teachers had to interpret the Board of Secondary School Studies biology syllabus regarding the teaching of evolution and alternative theories.
There are many of us that believe that the origin of the species is from creation and not from evolution,
Mr. Powell said. Again, that was only in 1984. Amazing. And now skipping ahead only a couple of years to 1986 on the 6th of January in the Canberra Times, Creationists' grants unconstitutional. The Australian skeptics believe the government may have breached the Constitution by giving export development grants totalling at least $27,000 to two creationist organisations. The national president of Australian Skeptics, Mr. Mark Plummer, said from Melbourne yesterday that Section 116 of the Federal Constitution prevented the government from establishing a religion.
We find it rather amusing that the board, the Export Development Grants Board, have made grants to religious organisations, and we want to know under what pretext they got that money,
he said. The skeptics had made a Freedom of Information request to the Attorney General's Department to find out if checks had been made to ensure that the grants had not been inconsistent with the section. Mr. Plummer said there had only been 4 legal cases brought under this section since Federation, and Federation was in the year 1901. But the section was based on the United States First Amendment, and there had been a preponderance of U.S. court cases which had gone against the state making grants to religious groups. The grants were detailed in an 80-page booklet launched by the skeptics in Sydney on Friday, challenging creationists' beliefs. It said a balance sheet of the Creation Science Foundation Limited for the year ending March 31, 1985, listed as credit an export market development grant of $24,693. The booklet, edited by Queensland scientists Dr. Martin Bridgestock and Dr. Ken Smith, said the Brisbane-based foundation had grown rapidly into an organisation with a $500,000 turnover, a well-produced magazine, a newspaper, and 14 full-time staff. Mr. Plummer said the skeptics' claim was supported by the board's 1984-85 annual report, which listed a payment to the Creation Scientists Foundation Limited of $12,444 and to the Creation Scientist Association, Incorporated, of $3,177. The Society had also made a Freedom of Information request to the Department of Trade, but the department had refused the request on the grounds that it could not reveal information about applicants' affairs. Mr. Plummer said the creationists were holding a conference at the University of New South Wales from tomorrow. The skeptics had challenged the creationists to reveal all the details of export grants and had challenged 2 visiting US creationists to a debate. The very early days of Australian skeptics. And now let's turn to a magazine, a newspaper from 1985 called Woroni from Canberra, and this is dated the 9th of September. Genesis versus Darwinism, again in Queensland. Queensland, Australia's bastion of democracy, protector of public morals, innovator in human rights, and laughingstock of the continent, does it again with an Education Department edict that creation science must be taught in all state high schools. Creation science teaches that the world was created in 7 days some 6,000 years ago in a flash of inspiration of a supreme being. Creation scientists back up such claims with wildly inaccurate, if not downright misleading, evidence, such as human footprints in fossil beds along with dinosaur prints. Creation science is a sham being used to attract people into the fundamentalist Christian churches and away from orthodox science and religion. Earlier this year, the Queensland Minister for Education, Mr. Lynn Powell, ordered that creationism must be taught alongside evolution in all schools. This order caused much anger in the science and education community at the time, and luckily most teachers exploited a loophole that allowed them to teach creationism in whatever manner they liked, just so long as it was taught. However, Mr. Powell was attacked by the Creation Science Foundation, CSF, an organisation that expounds fundamentalism Christian propaganda from Brisbane, for his laxity. And Mr. Powell's latest instructions to the teachers have stated exactly how creationism is to be taught. How is creationism to be taught? Are the guidelines non-biased and scientific? Well, frankly, no, for this is too much to expect from an enlightened Queensland education minister. Rather, the guidelines were formulated by the CSF. CFS, which calls itself a, quote, faith-funded organisation, end quote, spends some $40,000 per year getting its glossy magazine ex nihilo into the schools around the state, with approval from the Minister for Education, and into occasional unsuspecting schools in other states. Last year, ex nihilo was sent to a school in the Northern Territory. This school, being a bit more alert than its neighbours across the border, declared ex nihilo as, quote, unsuitable for children, end quote, and therefore asked to be taken off the mailing list. CFS threw a tantrum at this and reported in its newspaper Prayer News to write to the library expressing indignation at such a state of affairs. Unfortunately for the library, the flood of mail was so large that the hapless librarian was forced to accept the publication they didn't want. What is the danger in creationism? The danger lies in the fact that religion is being taught as science. The very roots of science itself are being attacked. In order to accommodate science to creationism, the creationists have to change the meaning of the second law of thermodynamics, the consistency of the speed of light, the established means of aging the Earth, and redefining science and scientific technique. Such willfully distorted claims should not be taught to children too young to question the motives and intellectual honesty of creationist teachers. Although the situation in Canberra is not nearly as worrying to scientists and educators as it is in Queensland, already a number of government schools have had creationism incorporated into their curricula. One local government college actively taught creationism in both physics and geology classes as an alternative to evolution. In fact, at this particular college, evolution was actively ridiculed, and any attempt by the students to have creationism removed from the curriculum was soundly ignored by the science faculty and the principal concerned. One student actually stated that he had been discriminated against because of his belief in evolution, and his results reflected this. He appealed. His appeal was successful, and his results were amended, but creationism was still taught. This writer feels that the teaching of fundamentalist Christianity has its place, but its place is not in schools. Religion and the state should be kept separate. If not, we can all look to Iran and Libya for a lead to the future. However, let us not despair at this seeming return to the Dark Ages. Scientists, teachers, parents and students are rallying around orthodox science. In Queensland, 400 concerned people gathered at the University of Queensland to hear a series of lectures exposing the fraudulent basis of creation science, and as a result, an action group called Australian APE, Australian Association for the Protection of Evolution, was formed. Australian Ape, that's quite good. It is assembling survival kits for school teachers who find themselves unwillingly ordered to teach creationism. In Canberra, there is a group called the Australian Skeptics, the local branch of the Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, a worldwide organisation of concerned people who have taken major strides in the fight against irrationalism and pseudoscience. The local branch is currently looking into creationism in Australian Capital Territory schools, and the Mercury sect is willing to take up other projects as necessary. If you are interested in the scientific investigation of paranormal occurrences, perhaps becoming a local ghostbuster, phone the Secretary of the Canberra Skeptics, Dr. William Gray, on 516-081. Or turn up to one of our monthly meetings held in the Seminar Room, Jaeger Building, Mills Road, Australian National University at 8 p.m. on the first Tuesday of each month. Next issue, Astrology and Firewalking. Might be worth looking at the next issue. And that was written by David Vernon, with thanks to Paul Kurtz, chairman of SciCop, Tony Thorburn, Nature Magazine, Martin Bridgestock, Griffith University, and Mark Plummer, Australian Skeptics, for information on creationism. Now, wouldn't it be nice to pop back in time some almost 40 years ago and mention to the skeptics at the time, you know what? In this instance, it's going to turn out well. Creationism is simply going to wither and die. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. It's still around. It's still humming around in the background somewhere. But its influence, in this country at least, is scarcely noticeable. What an interesting Trove segment that was, going back through the pages of Australian printed history. And you too can go back through the pages of Australian printed history by going to Trove at trove.nla.gov.au. Tell your friends, tell your neighbours, tell your family, tell your enemies. The more people who use Trove, the better, and the more likelihood that it will continue to receive funding. Because when you visit Trove, you never know what you might find. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Now, it might interest you, and this will be in this week's show notes, that 10 years ago on the Skeptic Zone was episode number 222, and that was on the 21st of January 2013. And the link is in the show notes, and on that episode, Maynard interviewed Dr. Krissy Wilson about talking to the dead. Maynard and I went to a public Q&A from the Danger 5 television show, which was a comedy show here in Australia. Also, I travelled to Canberra for a skeptical barbecue. Oh, that was fun, where I was there for a screening of Brian Dunning's movie, Here Be Dragons. And I seem to remember, I think I introduced that at the time. That was a lot of fun. And also in that episode, there was a segment of the Think Tank where I chat to the Canberra Skeptics about conspiracy theories. Anyway, all that was happening 10 years ago. Thank you to my supporters who contribute every month or every week to the Skeptic Zone. Muchly appreciated. Muchly, is that a word? Yes, much appreciated. Much appreciated. And I especially thank my supporter who enabled me to purchase vital equipment like an iPad, and rest assured I am getting much use out of that a piece of equipment. I really like USB-C. It's very convenient and very useful. And if you happen to have the later iPads and you like video editing, I'm just amazed at a free application. You've probably heard about it, called DaVinci Resolve. It's a full-blown video editor right on the iPad, and it's stunning. I'm not getting any kickback from it, but I've been trying it out. It's a lot to get your head around, but it's just remarkable. I might be utilizing that to make some future skeptical videos. Now, we mentioned Maynard a bit earlier. Don't forget, if you go to maynard.com.au, you can download your free 2023 Maynard calendar. Coming up on next week's show, the Trove segment, we'll look at a report from 1990 about an Australian Skeptics convention all those years ago. But for this week, from 2023, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for show notes, contacts, and to access the back catalogue of episodes going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone podcast on Twitter at Skeptic Zone, visit our Facebook page, or leave a review on iTunes. You can also support the Skeptic Zone via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone podcast is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian Skeptics or any other skeptical organisation.